There was an eerie silence as I stepped into the village of Pluckley, known as the most haunted village in Britain. The tales of spectral sightings had drawn me to this place, curious to experience the paranormal for myself. Armed with my camera and a trembling anticipation, I made my way towards St. Nicholas Church. The ancient church stood proudly amidst the mist-shrouded graveyard. Its weathered stone walls seemed to whisper secrets of the past. As I approached, a strange feeling, as if unseen eyes were watching my every move. I took a deep breath and pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the church exuded an otherworldly aura. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows that danced upon the worn pews. I wandered through the nave, my footsteps echoing in the silence. A scent of dampness mingled with the faint fragrance of incense, adding to the mystique of the place. My heart skipped a beat as I reached the altar. It was said that the Red Lady haunted this very spot, her presence palpable in the air. I glanced around, half expecting to catch a glimpse of her ethereal form, but the church remained still, seemingly keeping its secrets close. Determined to unravel the mysteries of Pluckley, I ventured into the graveyard. The moon cast an ethereal glow on the tombstones, creating an otherworldly ambience. I scanned the names etched in stone, wondering which of the 12 resident ghosts lingered here. And then I saw her. A figure clothed in white, her ghostly form illuminated by the moonlight. The White Lady stood amidst the gravestones, her gaze fixed in the distance. I approached cautiously, my breath caught in my throat. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible in the stillness. She turned her head, her eyes vacant yet filled with sorrow that transcended time. Without uttering a word, she faded away, leaving me alone in the presence of the departed. As I made my way back towards the church, a soft breeze rustled through the trees. The air seemed charged with an unseen energy. I glanced back one last time and froze. A shadowy figure materialized before me, mounted on a phantom horse. The ghostly highwayman, forever doomed to roam these ancient roads. Fear gripped me, yet a strange fascination compelled me to stay. The phantom highway disappeared into the night, leaving behind a lingering sense of unease. Pluckley had shared its haunted secrets, a glimpse into the realm beyond our own. Leaving the village, I couldn't help but reflect on my enigmatic nature of the paranormal. The stories and legends whispered through the halls of St. Nicholas Church had come alive, if only for a fleeting moment. Pluckley had left an indelible mark on my soul, a reminder that there is more to this world than meets the eye. With newfound respect for the spirits that dwell in the shadows, I carried their stories with me, forever curious about the realms that exist beyond the tangible. As I drove away, the echoes of Pluckley's ghost lingered, a haunting melody that would forever resonate with me. I've always been fascinated with the history of St. Audoen's Church. The last remaining medieval church in Dublin, it stood strong through the centuries, a testament to its endurance in times of great turbulence. But there are some stories about the church that are far from comforting. Legend has it that the area around the church was once known as Hell due to its rampant violence and the concentration of taverns and brothels. It's said that many battles took place between gangs in the area, and the victors would hang their opponents at the gates of Hell as a warning to others. It's no wonder that those passing through the archway often feel a presence here. One of the most famous figures sent to haunt St. Audoen's Church is Darky Kelly, a businesswoman who ran a brothel just off Fishamable Street. Rumors suggest that she became pregnant by a city sheriff and demanded financial support, only to be accused of witchcraft and sacrificing her unborn child as part of a satanic ritual. Some even say she was a serial killer responsible for the deaths of at least 5 men whose body parts were discovered under the floorboards of her brothel. Whatever the truth of her life and death, Darky's spirit is believed to appear on the ancient steps beside the old church, heading towards the gates of hell. Known as the Green Lady, she has been witnessed by many people over the years, including myself. One night, I was walking past the church and caught sight of a woman dressed in green walking up the steps towards the gates of hell. As I approached her, she vanished into thin air. The hair on my arm stood on end, and I knew I had just witnessed something otherworldly. But Darky's ghost isn't the only one said to haunt St. Audoen's church. Thomas Whaley, who oversaw the second incarnation of Dublin's Hellfire Club, is rumored to have committed even more vile atrocities than the original. But when he arrived at the church seeking absolution, it's said that he saw the devil himself moving up the aisle towards him and fled the church and the country in terror, never to return. Some say he died haunted by the memory of that encounter. I've heard other stories of the paranormal encounters at St. Audoen's Church too. A group of nuns once claimed to have encountered the ghosts of lepers, while others have seen shadowy figures around the gates of hell and heard the sound of footsteps when there has been nobody there. And it's not just the outside of the church. Many visitors claim to have sensed that they were being watched while looking around the interior of the church itself. Despite the spooky stories, St. Audoen's Church remains active as a parish church, serving the local community. But there's no denying that there's a haunting quality to this place, a sense that the past is never quite gone. Even as I walk past the old church on a quiet night, I can feel the weight of history bearing down on me, the echoes of the past stirring the air around me. It's a place that will always stay with me, a reminder that sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. I always felt a sense of unease whenever I stepped into that old church. It wasn't just the old creaky pews or the stained glass windows that seemed to stare down at me. No, it was something deeper, more primal. It was as if the very air in the church was thick with a heavy presence that I couldn't quite put my finger on. But I never let it stop me from attending services. After all, it was the only church in town, and my family had been attending there for some generations. So I tried my best to ignore the feeling and focus on the service. That all changed one fateful night. I was alone in the church, helping to prepare for the annual harvest festival. I was setting up tables and chairs in the fellowship hall when I heard a noise coming from the sanctuary. At first I assumed that it was just the wind rattling the old windows, but then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps, like someone was walking down the aisle. I tried to shake off the feeling of dread that was creeping up on me and walked towards the sanctuary. I pushed open the heavy doors and peered inside. The church was empty, or so it seemed. But then I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned, and there it was. A figure, shrouded in darkness, stood at the back of the church. I couldn't make out any features, but I could feel its eyes on me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure began to move towards me, each step deliberate and slow. Panic set in, and I turned to run, but I tripped and fell. As I lay there, helpless and vulnerable, the figure loomed over me. I could feel its breath on my face, and I knew that this was it. I was going to die. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanished. The church was once again empty and silent. I lay there for a few moments, catching my breath and trying to make sense of what had just happened. Had it been a ghost? A demon? I never found out what it was that I had seen that night. But from then on, I made sure to never be alone in the church again, and every time I stepped inside, I couldn't get rid of the feeling that I wasn't alone, that something wasn't waiting for me just in the darkness ahead. I always loved playing the piano. I loved the sound of the keys, the feel of the pedals under my feet, and the way the music flowed out of me effortlessly. So when I heard that there was an old Mormon church in the middle of nowhere that still had a functioning piano, I knew I had to go play it. It was a long drive to the church, and I had arrived just as the sun was setting. My parked car was outside, up to the old wooden doors. They creaked as I pushed them open, and I stepped into a large, dimly lit room. The piano was in the corner, covered in dust and cobwebs, but as soon as I had sat down on the bench and placed my fingers on the keys, I felt a strange energy in the room. It was almost as if someone was watching me. I began to play a simple melody, and as I did, I heard a faint whispering in my ear. It was so soft that I couldn't make out the words, but it scared me. I tried to ignore it and continued to play. As I played, the whispering grew louder, and I began to hear the sound of footsteps behind me. But when I turned around, no one was there. I was alone in the church. But I wasn't alone for long. As I played, I heard the sound of another piano playing. It was a beautiful melody, unlike anything I had ever heard before. I turned around, expecting to see another pianist in the room with me, but once again, there was no one there. The piano continued to play on its own, and I felt a cold breath on my back of my neck. Suddenly, the piano lid slammed shut, and the room was silent once more. I tried to leave, but the doors were locked from the outside. I was trapped in the church with whatever entity was playing the piano. As the night wore on, the piano played on, and I could hear the sound of footsteps getting closer and closer. I knew that I was not alone in the church. Finally, the sun began to rise, and the doors unlocked, and I ran out of the church as fast as I could, never looking back. Years have passed since that night, but I still hear the sound of the piano playing in my dreams, and I know that I will never forget that ghostly presence that played the piano in the old Mormon church in the middle of the night.